President Biden says there would be a ceasefire in Gaza tomorrow if Hamas would release the Israeli hostages it has been holding since October 7th. The president told donors at a fundraiser in Seattle last night, quote, "It's up to Hamas. If they want to do it, we could end it tomorrow, and the ceasefire would begin tomorrow." The comments come as Israel orders new evacuations in Rafah, a sign the Israeli army may be preparing to expand its operations in the city. The ranking member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Democratic Congressman Gregory Meeks of the great state of New York, joins us now. Welcome, Congressman. Good to see you.
It's good to be with you.
Good to see you. I want you to take those remarks from President Biden and put them side by side with what it is we heard from former President Trump last night in New Jersey. I'm not going to make you listen to him, but he essentially criticized the current president for threatening to withhold weapons to Israel, said, "I support Israel's right to win its war on terror. Is that okay? I don't know. I don't know if that's good or bad politically. I don't care. You got to do what's right." If you are explaining this contrast in policy to voters, how do you do that?
Well, look, I think that clearly President Biden has shown his strong support for Israel. That's why we voted to get the weapons to them in a timely fashion when the Republicans were holding it up. But what we are concerned about, what President Biden is concerned about, is innocent lives being lost, which is a consideration. So it's talking about values. And so clearly the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump throughout is the values that Biden holds against the values that Trump doesn't care about anybody else and anybody in any other human life but his own. And so President Biden cares about humanitarian aid. He cares about innocent lives being lost. He believes that we've got to get Hamas. He believes in having a ceasefire, but he also understands that the hostages must be released. So one is talking in a more humane way, considering everyone that's involved in this, also looking at a two-state solution at the end, which is what we should be all looking for and moving to, because the way that we transform the Middle East is with a two-state solution. We've got that opportunity with the other Arab countries for the first time. I mean, the setting has been made for the first time that they are on board. I talked this last week with ambassadors from Saudi Arabia to Bahrain to Qatar. They all want the same thing. They also want to work with Israel, as we saw they did in regards to when Iran attacked Israel. It was that collaborative way, working in a multilateral way is what is important, not moving on your own and without the values that we think we all stand for.
See, the thing about Donald Trump is that he oftentimes attacks everyone without any nuance, right? So whoever he's attacking on that day, he likes to paint with a broad stroke brush, and sometimes he lies about it. A lot of times he's lying. And his criticism, if you will, about President Biden and what he said. I mean, Peter Baker has this really great piece in the New York Times I think folks should read, where Peter Baker notes that Biden is not the first U.S. president to cut off weapons to Israel. Other presidents, including Ronald Reagan, used the power of American arms to influence Israeli war policy. But the comparisons underscore how much the politics of Israel has changed over the years. I will also note that Dwight D. Eisenhower threatened economic sanctions and aid cutoff to force Israel to withdraw from the Sinai Peninsula. But, you know, that's some of y'all that didn't get y'all history lessons, okay? The politics, I don't, maybe the policies have changed over the years, or is it that Prime Minister Netanyahu has just dug his heels in so much and catered very much to the right-wingers within his country that are keeping him in power, and couple that with the rise of social media and the expansion of social media. People talk a lot about these college students. They're seeing, not just college students, but people all over the country are seeing these images coming out of the Gaza Strip. And I think that particularly, that is contributing to what folks are saying right now.
Look, the people of Israel, before October the 7th and after October the 7th, have been in the streets against Netanyahu.
Say it, sir.
So he has been a problem even before October 7th, and he's a problem now. He and Donald Trump are almost one in the pea into the same pod. They're both under indictments, and people in the streets against their policies. As you stated correctly, he has a right-wing government who really does not care about humanity or humanitarian aid or anything. In fact, some have said that outwardly. So there is an issue in that regards. And that's why it is important that we continue with our values and continue for the sake and the benefit of the majority of the Israeli people. Is Netanyahu, listening to his right wing excessively? Absolutely. That's what he's doing. Because they said if you don't just forget the president of the United States, forget the other allies in the region. You do what we tell you, or we will leave the coalition, which will bring that government down. And so what Netanyahu is trying to do is to stay in power. But what we should do is try to think about not Netanyahu and him in power. Think about the people of Israel. Think about how we can change their lives. Here's an opportunity. How never before have we had or heard Saudi Arabia talking about normalizing relationships with Israel. Think about the Bahrainians. Think about the Jordanians. I met with King Abdullah not too long ago. They all want to work with Israel. That hasn't happened. And you know what? How we know it's not just talk. When Iran attacked them, Jordan Saudi Arabia, Egypt, they all was on board with Israel. So there is unity for Israel. And it's how we move forward to keep that unity there.
Michael, I will just note, I think it's wild that all of these things are happening because of diplomacy and this administration, and Joe Biden is not getting any of the credit. The people are still criticizing him.
That's an important point that Simone just made about how this is being translated, Congressman, to the rest of the country, because it does seem like that. And I've argued this, Simone, Alicia, on this show and outside of this show, the fact that this work has been going on. The president has moved this issue in Israel between the U.S. and Israel and Hamas, with all of the partners that you just outlined, to a point where it has stopped exploding. Right? It is not this. There is a little bit of a cap on it. Things are in negotiation, in discussion. Why hasn't that been able to translate to the American people in a way that they see the foreign policy success? Because, folks, success is not just, we got this grand announcement today. Success is when stuff doesn't happen. Right? That's success, when the bad stuff doesn't happen. So how does the administration communicate that? Because it's the same issue with Ukraine. So you've got these twin pillars of opportunity that the administration has leaned into and made some severe and important movements in, yet the American people think Ukraine, I don't want to waste my money, and Israel, the poor, they're advocating for Hamas without really understanding what Hamas is.
The world is different now. The world is much smaller than it used to be. And you know what Donald Trump says, America alone. He does not care about allies and working collectively in a multilateral way. That's why, whether it's NATO, whether it's other allies around the world, Joe Biden has focused on bringing our allies together. If you're the leader of the free world, you've got to have somebody that's with you. You can't be by yourself. Now, diplomacy is what Joe Biden talks about. And diplomacy is hard. It's easy to say, I'm just going to blow everybody up, but it's hard to get people together to work together. And Joe Biden is in this, utilizing his experience when he was in the Senate, when he was the vice president, and now on talking to people and bringing our allies together, because that's what's going to make this world a safer place. We won't be safe if we're all by ourselves. Those two oceans that years ago you thought would isolate us because the oceans would protect us, that is no longer true. So when we're doing things in a multilateral way, we're not only helping somebody else, we're also helping ourselves. There is national security interest for the United States of America. And that's why diplomacy is very, very important. When we were attacked on 9/11, it was the European countries and NATO that came together. The only time that Article 5 was implemented was working together with us. And similarly, on October the 7th, everybody was with Israel. We locked in, all the countries, everybody was, and everybody is still with Israel. Nobody wants Hamas to continue to exist other than Iran.
Right.
That's Iran, Hezbollah.
Right.
We saw that. But everyone else is now focused. That's why we're now in a unique situation that Joe Biden has put us in, so that we can stop, we can get this ceasefire, move, we want to get Hamas out, but then we can fundamentally change what's taking place in the Middle East. We could have a Jewish state side by side with the Palestinian state, a two-state solution, figuring out how to, living together, along with Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, the UAE, all of the countries around it. And that then also puts extensive pressure on a rogue nation like Iran, who is the one that don't want any peace in the region. That's what Joe Biden is doing, and that's hard work. But he's starting to accomplish it. And I can really see that the end result will be a better Middle East. But what we have to do now is to get to that ceasefire. And Joe Biden is right. We could get there immediately if Hamas just releases those hostages.
Yeah.
And then move forward. I've talked to some of our Arab countries. They are willing for the first time to invest in Gaza and the West Bank. They've never said that before.
Are they pushing back in channel conversations with Hamas to release those hostages? Because everybody knows that's the key that unlocks everything towards a ceasefire.
In fact, when we met in a bipartisan way, I might add, with King Abdullah, he said, put more pressure on us to get Hamas to release those. They're ready to do it, and they're trying to do it. But he said it. They are willing to be more engaged now than ever, but they need a ceasefire. Put the pressure on Hamas in that regards, so that innocent people are not continuing to die.
Yeah.
And I think that's all that Joe Biden is saying. Joe Biden is saying, look, he's not taking weapons away or not, standing by Israel.
He's just saying he's not going to help your mom, children in Gaza, right?
With 2,000-pound bombs.
Come on now. It seems straight up to me.
That's all he's saying.
All right, Congressman. Thank you so much, sir. Congressman Gregory Meeks, thank you very much.